Hello, dear friends. Welcome to our studies here on Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Good evening for those who are live with us on Facebook, on Instagram, and good day for those who are watching us on demand. My name is Shane Martin, and we are here with you today talking about God's answers to our pleas. If you're here with me, and with our friends Eric and Evelyn who join momentarily, please leave us a name, leave us comments and questions if you have them. We'll do our best to answer them. And as in any Spiritist gathering, I am never alone. Nobody's ever alone. Aside from the good spirits that are with us, I have two friends in the physical realm that are with me, and I'm going to welcome them now. Hi, Evelyn.
Hi.
Hello, guys, and make sure people can see your beautiful faces. How are you guys doing?
Doing well, thank you.
Doing good.
Good, and welcome to those who are see some of you live. And as I always mention, we are able to see that you're live, but not who you are, because we are broadcasting in multiple locations. So feel free to write down your name if you want us to talk to you directly. So we're going to start today with a message that Eric is going to read to us. So I'm going to give him the floor.
And this is from the book Happy Life by the Spirit Joanna De Angelis, number 132. The natural events of human existence are seen as misfortunes, the loss of a loved one, accidents with long-term effects, financial ruin, emotional downfalls, earthquakes, and other calamities. While they are clearly serious problems, they do not qualify as real disasters except for those who allow themselves to be upended by their effects, wiping out life's higher objectives. When we know how to deal with these setbacks, we can benefit enormously from them.
All right, dear friends, we're going to now go ahead and do our initial prayer. Our recommendations remain the same. Repetition, effort, and repetition is that you close your eyes if it's safe for you to do so and repeat the words of the prayer mentally. And I'm going to take this few seconds to also welcome our friends now on Instagram. So we are all connected everywhere where people may need. Join me on a prayer now if you can. Dear Mother, Father God, thank you so much for bringing us together today. Thank you for the teachings we are about to receive. Dear God, we thank you for all the blessings we have in our lives. And we thank you for the beauty that surrounds us. We thank you for the blessings of this reincarnation. We thank you for our physical bodies. We thank you for the days we still have to fulfill our reincarnatory plan and your will on this earth. Dear God, we pray that we are able to receive your inspiration, that our hearts are open to receive the good spirits that are all around us. May these moments of reflection allow us to serve all of those who surround us in both realms who may be suffering. May the good spirits that are always with us use our presence and our energetic fields to help the spirits that suffer. May all of those who are ready to receive your words of inspiration and help be taken to hospitals and healing areas in the spiritual realm. And may all the good spirits that work for you, dear God, under the guidance of our Master Jesus, travel all throughout this earth, bringing with them consolation, encouragement, healing, strengthening all of humanity in both realms, so we may remain united, evolving together towards a world of regeneration. Dear God, we humbly request your protection. We ask you for your inspiration tonight, and with your permission, we begin our studies today. And so be it. All right, dear friends, dear Eric and dear Evelyn, we're going to start our studies of the book Jesus in the Home, and then I will be bringing you guys later in a little bit, okay?
Okay.
All right, dear friends. So today, hello, I see some friends live on Facebook. I see some friends live on Instagram. Welcome, welcome. Leave your comments, leave your questions, and we'll do our best to reply to them. So this is the book we're going to study today, Jesus in the Home by Neil Lucio, published in 1949. And if you have the book, the chapter is 28, and this chapter is titled The Heavenly Reply. And then we titled this talk, God Answers to Our Pleas, because we want to talk about today the things you and I ask from God. What have you asked of God today? What kind of things have you asked for directly or indirectly? What kind of things have you yearned that you have received or have achieved? Have you asked for yourself, or have you asked for others? Hello, Justin. We are here with you. Thank you for joining us. In this book, we have not only stories that were told by Neil Lucio of the times that Jesus was with us on the earth, but also we get to know of Jesus' body language, get to know of Jesus' interaction with his disciples, and we can imagine ourselves in that place. So I want you to see yourself there. I want you to feel the presence of our Master, because he is with us every day, everywhere. And as he was meeting with his disciples, he always took the opportunity that he was with, when he was with them, to teach them something uplifting, to clarify questions, to clarify situations. And that's the first invitation of the day. Not only we want to be mindful of what we ask, what we plead God, but we also want to make sure when we are in communion with others, let it be at home, in our workplaces, at the grocery store, wherever we go, we want to take that opportunity not only to interact with folks, but we also want to make sure we leave them with this presence, with this kindness, and with this love, just as if you were to meet with Jesus today. And as they were talking, that night, Bartholomew asked for an explanation. What did he want to know? He wanted to know about heaven's answers to people's prayers. And Jesus responded to enlighten everyone. Did you know that God, the heavens, reply to our prayers? Because prayer is the direction of thought to an object of interest. In this case, we can pray to God. We can pray that we receive some sort of assistance. We can pray that our loved ones are helped. We can pray for ourselves. We can pray for others. And heavens will answer our prayers, or will we not? Does God answer you when you ask for God? Because we want to read this. We want to internalize the knowledge, and we want to make sure that we can also think about how these apply to our daily lives. And this story is about a man. This story is about a man, an old teacher of the divine commandments, that he was on a mission of heavenly truth. He was going from distant village to distant village, and he was accompanied by his dog. One night, darkness fell without him having determined how many miles separated him from his next destination. So he was kind of like a preacher at that time, and he was traveling from place to place in a divine mission. Night fell, he didn't realize how far he had to go, and what did he do? Realizing that he was alone in the middle of nature, and it was quite frightening, he prayed for protection from the Eternal Father and continued his way. So that's the first teaching. When you and I come to a point in our lives where we find ourselves frightened, or it's a new situation, or if something we have to make a decision upon, this passage encourages us to pray. And this teacher, as he was teaching the divine commandments, he was probably used to the prayer. And that's the first thing of the night. When we pray for God, when we plead with God, what are the things we're asking for, and when are we asking for? So that's the first thing we have to take into consideration. He stopped and he asked for protection because he didn't know where he was. He didn't know how long he had to work. Yet he took the time to pray. So that's the first thing I'm going to encourage you to do starting tonight. When we find ourselves in a difficult situation, let's aim for prayer. And he was walking about this path from village to village. Think about, this story has been told 2,000 years ago. It's not like you and I hop in our cars and going on 64 or 95. It's more about walking, or riding a mule, or having some sort of carriage to carry yourself and things. This man was walking. So he was walking about and he saw a wide and comfortable looking hollow by the side of the path. And he thought to himself, I'm going to shorten the story because we only have so much time. So the encouragement here is go to the chapter 28, and read for yourself and make sure you bring these teachings to your daily life. And he said, well, it's night. I'm tired. I'm just going to lay around and I found this hollow, found this area where he felt that he could stop. Yet when he was just about to settle into this hollow, a dark cloud of voracious flies attacked him. And all of a sudden he was forced to continue. So here's a situation that sounds enticing, that sounds good for the time, for the situation he was experiencing, such as he was tired, probably at night. But he couldn't stay at this place. The flies came about and he was forced to move on. What happened to him next? He came about a bridge. He came about a rustic bridge on a deep creek that was a fork in the road. The bridge offered him a way across on the main road, and just beyond it, the ground looked welcoming, right? He's like, well, I have to make a decision. I see this bridge, and over there, it said that the story goes, there's a moonlight, and he could see this welcoming ground. It looked like sandy path. He was good to go. Did he go or did he not go? What happened next is, as he was about to take the dog and guide the dog, his faithful companion, as Jesus put in the book, towards the other side of the bridge suddenly collapsed and broke into pieces. He gave away the bridge. He was not able to go the direction he had planned to. I want you to emphasize that these situations look comfortable and they look appropriate at the time, yet he was unable to proceed and he was forced to turn and go the other way. It was a fork on the road, and he continued about his way. Half a mile or so further, he came about a healthy tree full of welcoming branches. And by this time, you can imagine he was probably tired. You and I would probably be tired from walking and walking. And he thought to himself, that sounds like a good place to rest, because he could hear in the distance the thunder, and he was predicting that a storm would come. So he said, well, there's this tree. I'm going to take refuge in this tree. Yet, as he was about to take refuge in the tree, under the tree, in the welcoming branches, a gale began blowing so strongly that the tree came down, crashing and split apart. You can imagine. What would you think at this time? You would probably, this old man was a teacher of the divine commandments, so he was probably really much more graceful than some of us may have been. It would be thinking about, how unlucky am I? I'm trying to go. It's night. I'm cold. Storm's about to come. The second time that I try to take refuge somewhere, and here he is, the trees are coming apart. Would you feel different? Would you feel like persevering and continue? Because it looked like the path he was trying to go was the right path at this time. Yet he was forced again to go a different way. So he was not able to stop and rest. He had to go. I'm not sure if I would have continued or he would have stopped by and had the tantrum fit, right? Where we are really upset and thinking we are unlucky and we're trying and trying and trying and we can't really go. Yet, 2 miles down the road, he continued walking and he came across an old country house that appeared to have a soft light on the inside, and he breathed a sigh of relief. Of course, after 2.5 miles walking in the cold and the dark of a storm, he went and knocked on this door. He said, okay, thank God there is this house. They will accept me as a guest for the night. Yet he knocked, but he was refused entry. Once more, the man who answered the door said the place did not welcome strangers and the visitors in the middle of the night, and he was not allowed to take in strangers. So he saw a situation that looked appropriate at the time. He saw something that would be comforting, that would help him with his situation of being tired and cold and wet at this time, yet he was forced to continue. He did continue throughout the night. And then he was able to find, here's the storm, and now this is the time where the dog comes about again. He found a comfortable place near to a small hut on the road, and he settled down to rest. Yet what happened was that there was so much thunder and storms that the dog ran away. Can you imagine? You had your faithful companion this whole time. You're tired, you're trying to get to the village. The first time you try to settle somewhere, you weren't able to. The second time, the bridge comes down. The third time, the tree falls apart. And now you lost your companion. Now he's alone. What does he do? At this time, alone, the old man wept in anguish, believing that he had been forsaken by God. Isn't that funny? Because I think that this time we probably would have cried and wept in anguish much earlier than this man, but he persevered. And that's another thing. He stopped. Remember, let's begin. In the beginning of his trip, when he realized there was a long way to go, and it was nightfall, he stopped and prayed for the protection. At this time, after being denied the comfort of different places around the road, he felt alone. He felt forsaken. Yet, the dog ran away because the dog, this time in this story, is howling. It's crying and is very distressed by the thunder. Yet he ran away. It was his companion. So he was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? However, he was able to rest and morning came. So here we are in the morning and he realized the sun is coming up in the splendor of light. Here's morning come. He went and left his hiding place. Remember, he was out and about in the elements. He rested and he left his resting place. And what happened to him? He realized he was in the wrong path. He was trying to go. And he came upon obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. Yet he was unable to continue, and he had at some point to stop. He went to see what happened. Throughout the night, he heard a bunch of noises, and he went to see what happened. And these are the things that happened on the places he tried to stop. A band of thieves have pillaged the village, the very same house that he had been turned away, and killed the people inside. And then he realized that God had saved him. The white soil, as he realized he was in the wrong path, he traced his steps back, right? He had to go back. And as he went back, he met different people. And the guy who was he was repairing the bridge, told him the white soil on the other side was nothing more than a treacherous swampland where many careless travelers have died. He wasn't able to go because the bridge collapsed. He was saved again from his life. The seemingly welcoming tree trunk was a well-known wolf's den, When he was about to take refuge on the den, remember the wind blew it, and it came down. He had to continue. At this time, what happened to the man? Remember, he went through his trip, difficulty after difficulty, situation that looked good, yet he was forced to continue. And at the end, when he lost his companion, he truly wept in anguish. At this moment, he realized that God had saved him and offering endless thanks to heaven for the different forms of help that he was unable to understand at first. He continued onward, safe and sound, to carry out his work. Isn't that very interesting that that's exactly a story that we can put our lives into? You and I go about our lives, we pray for things, we ask for things, we undergo different situations, yet sometimes we are unable to go through what we want, and God, life forces you to go a different route, and we are able to continue, we are forced to continue. We don't see at the time the many forms of helps the obstacles are. The obstacles are nuisances for us. We cry in anguish, we feel forsaken, yet these are help that God sends us. Safe and sound to carry our work, we should think. At this point, Jesus bring about the end of the meeting. And Jesus says, at this point in the interesting story, the master gazed at Bartholomew, gazed for a while, and then concluded. And I can only imagine that just as the good spirits that we read on No Solar and Andrea Louis books, where they are higher spirits that are probing our thoughts, Jesus was probably probing the inner thoughts of Bartholomew and his disciples and asking them what are really realizing what they really learned. And this is the conclusion of the story. Jesus says, the Father always hears our pleas, but we need discernment in order to understand God's answers and put them to the best use. I think this is a great way for us to see ourselves inside this story as we go from cradle to grave. And next time we are confronted or we're facing some difficult times or some difficult decisions, not only we ask for what we need, will we take the time to stop and ask for God's protection. And then we realize that the obstacles and the difficulties and the hardships are what? Ways for God to answer our prayers, and we may not understand them at first. However, we are able to see, as we say, hindsight 2020. Later, we'll realize that perhaps that was the best that could have happened to us. And now I am going to shortly bring our friends Evelyn and Eric back. And for the friends who are on Instagram, we are going to continue our conversation on YouTube, on Facebook, Spirit Society of Richmond, either a YouTube or Facebook, because there you're going to hear and see the three of us as we discuss the many ways God can listen to our prayers. Have a great night. Okay, so all right, so now we have our friend Evelyn and our friend Eric. Thank you guys for joining me back here to talk and discuss. And friends on Facebook, I see some of you live on Facebook and YouTube. Please, if you would like to, join us in the conversation and ask us questions. I'm going to make sure we can see one another. All right, comments, questions, concerns.
No, it was funny because as I was listening to you and this story, I remember that these were actually like two similar teachings that my mom passed on to me. One was not to be like annoyed or mad at when things came across Norway and maybe made us late for something and we missed a flight. Luckily, I never missed a flight, but and we missed the flight or we missed the bus or the train because sometimes like I don't know, just whatever, like I lost my keys, I cannot find my keys and now I'm late or something happened. Sometimes the things happen for a reason, right? Whenever a plane crashes, it's very rare. We hear those stories that people that were supposed to be on the plane and didn't get in because something totally random happened. Probably they were mad that happened and they had to miss the flight, but in the end, they could realize that they were actually lucky. And not always we may be in the position that we realize, right, that we were lucky, but I try to see it in those type of lens. And the other thing was also to be careful with what we ask for. If we ask for something like very precise, like, oh, I hope, I don't know, like a silly example, like God help me so I can date this person. I don't know. This may not be what is the best for us, right? Or even a job, like, oh, God help me get this job. This may not be the best job for you, the best place for you to work. So maybe like a job that I feel fulfilled, or a person, that helps me grow. A little bit more general. Like in this story, he did ask for just help to complete his path, and not like, please help me find a cave. I don't know, something specific, which maybe would not be the best for him. So because God's listening, so we should be careful with what we ask. That's how I feel. I try to be as broad as possible, or at least acknowledge this is what I want, but I also want God's will to be made, because I know He knows better. So, yeah, those are my thoughts.
What about you, Eric?
Yeah, I think we need to be very open-minded in realizing we don't know how God will answer our prayers. Yeah. And it could be answered in very unexpected ways. But what I took mainly from that story was how he prayed for protection and then continued on his way. He didn't pray for protection and sit and wait.
Sit back.
He was an active waiter. Prayed for protection and continue on your way. I think that's a good approach.
Right, like you ask help to find a job and you send out resumes, right? You go looking, you go doing certifications, you study. I don't know. You do something.
You don't wait for the job to knock on your door. You got to go look for it. Yes.
He didn't ask for protection, and all of a sudden, a bunch of men and horses appeared and were escorting him out to the next place. But I think it's a beautiful way that Jesus, because he could have said, well, when you find something difficult, just know that God is answering you. It's a way for God to answer you. He told a story, and then as we can see ourselves on that story, we can see how we can take our own conclusions and say, yes, when I was in this situation, I asked for this. And I think as we mature, we tend to be more less specific and more generic, right? When you're young, you pray for the toy Christmas, or when you a teenager, you pray for, go to the prom. And you're a young adult, you may pray for a job, but as you said, there are actions that need to accompany the desire. And he didn't realize at the time that the obstacles were help. And then as you pray for protection, for example, and I'll bring it back to our daily lives, you talk about flights. Well, even when you're late for work, or you're late to drop your kid off, or you're late to the Spiritist center, sometimes you realize that because you were looking for your keys for 5 minutes, or you left 5 minutes early, there was like a crash before or after. Or, something happened that would have made it much worse than you being 5 minutes late for something. Or as you said, you got that job, but then later you found a better one. And I like what Eric said about the active. So he persevered. He could have just sat down on the first stop and cried of anguish, which a lot of us would do, and it's no shame on it. and feeling forsaken, because he's like, I just asked you for your protection. It's late. I'm tired. I'm older. I really need a place to rest. And it would be very understandable if he had felt that way. Yet he took, a few trials of difficulties to really come down and be like, okay, now that my companion is alone, I'm alone, the dog is gone, I'm going to have to spend the night by myself. And he only later he was able to get the explanations. And I think it's interesting that the plot twist is that he wakes up, he realizes the noises he heard was the thieves, and then he goes ask the farmers that he find, tells him what happened, and then he realized he needed to go a different route. He actually was going the wrong way to begin with, but God stopped him from being harmed, and God ultimately, because God is giving us the opportunity to be like, okay, I'm showing you the right way. Then we sometimes don't recognize that's not the right way to go, and we keep insisting. Eventually we have to make it back to where we needed to go. And I think the active part of, where we usually say when we were meeting, we always say, well, the day of this mediumistic meeting is going to be a hard day. Everything is going to stop you. The day you have to do some important thing or volunteer, it may be a day there's more difficulties and more obstacles. But in the end, God answers the pleas, as Jesus says. We just need discernment to understand the answers. And put them to the best use. So I'm going to bring it back so people can see what I'm talking about too. And I think these are beautiful teachings where you said, careful what you ask for, because thought is life, right? So sometimes we may not realize that we're putting out difficult vibrations, and we are maybe something that is not even good for our own reincarnatory plan. And then we want to make sure that we are asking more for the protection, for strength, for faith, for this good spirits to be by our side, so we can have them. Even if you just ask for mindfulness, where when you you find yourself in a difficult time, the good spirits can come and inspire you to take a deep breath and pray, and then usually clearer thoughts allow us to be that way. What else did we get from these beautiful teachings?
And also, like in that story, he was able to understand it soon, or that's what it sounds like. But sometimes it's not immediate that we're gonna, realize the reason for some things, if ever.
It's true, if ever. And it's true. And I was thinking when I was reading
After we discarnate, they are gonna explain to us. We're like, what happened there? And like, oh, that's why I had that disease, or that's why I met that person.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, sorry.
And it's very interesting how it goes. But it takes a little bit of, sometimes mindfulness, journaling, and taking time from the busyness of our lives, and just doing, to take a few moments every day to reflect and clear the mind. Even if that's your only self-care action of the day, of stopping and talking. And one thing I want to emphasize to the folks that are with us, and even for our own selves, is that God acts through others. In this case, the man was alone, so God acted through acts of nature, right? The storm, the bridge that fell. In our lives, God may guide us in different paths when we encounter different people. You may pray for protection, or you may pray for inspiration, and then you meet an old friend, a mentor, a professor in college, or a teacher in high school, or you're feeling sad and you feel unlucky, and then you go to the street and there you encounter someone that has more more needs than you are. So God is acting through people. God is not going to, unless we are Christ's spirit, we're not going to know of God's not going to talk to us directly. In that same sense, you and I are instruments of God's actions in other lives. And that's why I started by saying, when you and I are with other people, we need to have that mindfulness and say, okay, God, good spirits, please help me so that I can say the right thing for these people that may help them. Guide me so that I don't say some stupid thing that might make them angry. Or, it's really a co-creation with God each and every day. So when you are with your family members, you can say, guardian angel of so and so, please. You don't need to say it out loud. You can just say in your mind. You can say your prayer may be, please, guardian angel of my child, guide me now. I'm anxious. I'm tired. There is something going on. Or you guardian angel of the students on Zoom or on in person. You can say, please allow me to be a good mentor to these folks. It may be the guardian angel of your boss if they're having a hard day. So you are the instrument that God's use, you and I, every day to help others, the same way others help us. So that's for us in this level of evolution. That's how God will make itself known. And that's up to us really to open our hearts and minds to perceive um, that opportunity, because always service, we are here to serve one another. And even if you're just with people, you can pray before getting to the places, their homes, or even in the grocery store, you can pray for the whole grocery store, or you can pray for your workplace. And it can be a moment where you serve silently, and not necessarily giving alms, but you can give of yourself. And that's how God will act on our lives. And then we can be blessings, and people can say, wow, that's why I met Evelyn and Eric that day. What about any other comments or questions before we head to our final prayer? Okay, we're satisfied. So I'm gonna give the floor to our friend Evelyn, who will pray for us today. Eric and I will somehow exit
Okay. So if you can, get yourself comfortable, take a deep breath. Dear God, guardian angels and spirit guides, thank you for being here with us tonight, bringing us this beautiful message and inspiring us as we learn all these teachings. We humbly ask you to help us connect with our mentors so they can inspire and guide us, steer us away from danger, and help us go through our life improving ourselves and helping others. May we see the challenges as help from God, as a way to give us strength and mold us to do the good. We ask you that you bless and protect all those that are suffering, that have lost hope, they're going through a really hard time. May they feel God's love and hope. With your permission and your protection, we end tonight's meeting. So be it.
Thank you, Evelyn, for the beautiful prayer. Friends, thank you so much for being with me tonight and with us tonight. And then we will meet again next week. Next month, dear friends, we're going to study the divine laws. So we have 4 days where we're going to discuss some of divine laws as we find them in the Spirit's book. So we welcome everyone. We invite everyone to join us at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we also, tomorrow morning, we're with you at 8 a.m. with another study of the book Right Path by Emmanuel through the medium Chico Xavier. And it's always a blessing, it's always our honor to be with you, serving you. Thank you so much, Edelaine. Thank you, Justin Gray, for being with us. And all of those who are still here not saying hi, that's okay. You are also in our hearts and minds. So I thank Evelyn, thank Eric, and for those on the internet, we'll see you next time, Mondays at 8 p.m.
Bye.